Alarklan ile gelişmen Chinggis Khan'a dorsal sangin emnesi sabıkında maşandır bayır kurgiçmen. Anatır mevziyesinin rum alarklan müdürcümen. Ata atla mana en yasal hamigiga paylaşılacak. Tiga atla ekostus bine söylediğin ugu merkez vazifesi. En Chinggis Khan'a takılı olmalı. Myanmar yüzünden aynı zamanda Ankara örgüsün bacana. Kendikle komacak hangin sarcılam lopsun bakışı her orun kon kalkan belgeler ekolosun bacana. Diğer hatta çoğu olun biten en takılkan örgüt ve ulum ada betul khay ulum ada kadro ada sanabar kira family kulejulan ada ne sekin obiye
Tasametsano undet zachta zunda along mosas басында олон хотоос мужаас ирсэн хүндэт очтой та бүгдийг тавтаа морилно гэж хүлээж авч байна. Тэгээд Монголоос ирсэн хүмүүс гараар өрөө. Anyone who came from Mongolia? Okay, 3 people. Anyone from Kalmykia? 1, 2, 3. Buryat? Oh, so many. Ur Mongol? Okay, that's a lot. Tova, we should have at least 2 to 1 people. They're always there every single year. And so, if you want to say hello in Tovan, and Hazara as well, right? 1 person. So, let's learn how to greet each other first of all. If you want to say hello in Tovahilid, Iki. Iki. Okay? Halimgarol, Mindift. Mindift. Burada Mind Amar. Monголоор тэгээд сайн байцгаана үү? Хазаараа харахаар жоохон хэцүү шүү за. Manda nashi kama. Manda nashi kama. So, welcome to the 31st Chinggis Khan Memorial Ceremony. Тэгээд Chinggis Khan-ы тахилгын 31 дэх он жилийн одоо баяр та бүгдийг тавтаа морилно гэж хэлье. Chinggis Khan сангийн захирал бэлэг борцод хэлнэ. Тэгээд opening remarks will be made by Director of Chinggis Khan Memorial Foundation, Ms. Bэлэг Борцод. Thank you.
Танаар сайн байцгаана уу? Америкийн Монгол чодын соёлын холбоо болон Chinggis Khan-ы дурсгалын санаа төлөвлөд танарынга өнөөдрийн 31 дэх удааны Chinggis Khan-ы тахилга морилгон цацныг байрлан огтааж байна. On behalf of the Mongol-American Cultural Association and the Chinggis Khan Memorial Foundation, I would like to welcome you all to the 31st annual Chinggis Khan Memorial Ceremony. Юуны өмнө бүгдээрээ чимээгүй төр босч зогсгоод манай Америкийн монголчуудын соёлын холбооны өнгөрсөн тэргүүлэгчид гомжаа багш сурчлан болон лобсан хёд нара дорсан санадази. To start off, I would like to ask you all to stand for a moment of silence to remember the MICA founders and past presidents, Professor Gomja Hangin, Sorchalan, and Lobsan Hyo. Thank you, please be seated. 오늘은 몽골의 애정소련 발굴은 애정과 Chinggis Khan'a şitindir. Türünek nesinde bu Mongol oğul yastıda yetkin horaç, Mongol usul işli tasavvuf, kılıç sarç haftaj, odan os orunta zam hersa 발굴lar. Çelik dayni bollukla Osin Horindach Herza Holbani Tatar, Ich Udel Putej Adabata Bostin Dorial Baba. Tony Heason Agu Wills Soil Bolosan Buch Mongol Chodin Ulgir Dorial, Shutel Bishril, Omokshil Baharhaf, Balahas, Manus Jil Daralden, Dilhin Ilgazar Orand, Chinggis Hani Takuga Irikhaser Daira. Today we will honor the founder of the Mongol Empire, Chinggis Khan. In his lifetime, he united numerous disparate nomadic tribes and gave us a shared identity, a common writing system, a legal code, and even an international postal network. His accomplishments as a military strategist and diplomat are still admired and studied by leaders all over the world to this day. His legacy has gifted us Mongols with a richly diverse culture and people and a never-ending source of pride. For this reason, each year, all over the world, Mongols gather together to celebrate his memory and pay their respects. America Bolj Baga in Hutafka, Uru Mongolin Ordasin Asian Korogos Birote, Uwe Hanas Olam Mongol Yasudin Kontros, Kavin Jun Or, Homosi, Sogovan, Darahadi, Babolj, Ankh Tahadi, Idlis. Ordas Mongolchol Darahadas, we Daralhan, Namin Chagan Ordik Sahi, Agent Hani Tahadi, Dixer Irsen Baga. Bamja Baksh, Sorchadamas, American Mongol Children, Circling Halbog, Bibolakda, Montful, American Mongol Children, we Daralhan, Takuga, we Chicken, Soil Odamshta, Takalahi, Hussein Sanashirtsen Bana. In the United States, our ceremony is derived from the annual ceremony performed at Agent Poro in the Ordos region of southern Mongolia. This tradition was started during the time of Kublai Khan, who gathered 500 families from all groups of Mongols and designated them as Darahad. They were given the task of protecting the relics of Chinggis Khan, the Namin Sagan Ola. Supported by the other Ordos Mongols for generations, the Darahad have carried out their given duties and performed the annual rituals for almost 800 years. When Professor Bamjab Hangin in Sorchlam founded the Mongol American Cultural Association in 1988, it was their hope that this ritual would be continued by generation after generation of Mongol Americans in the United States, teaching them about their history and instilling in them a sense of pride in their heritage. Unu dilhin il gazar oranos hurotsin irsin undes nikter Mongol chod in hamkam ijin Chinggisin tahij in soglarsin by Rushtek. Beat Chinggis Hana Shutij, Obok Detsis, Udlesim Tuk Soil, Uk Hill, Usik Ishke, Herdman Kundikij, Ukdir Ulhamdij, Herotsin Suru Taj, Ui Widen, Mongol U Soilva, Atgalaj, Uchullohi, Hized, Sanashir, Hirikeben. Mane Obok Detsis, Udin, Butesin, Abu Wilsi, Harahas, Speed Orient Soil, Bolosin, Zan Zanshla, Olamshlan, So today we will continue this annual tradition passed down to us by our forefathers and pay homage to the great Khan Chinggis. Let today also serve as a reminder to us that throughout the year we can honor the legacy of Chinggis Khan in our daily lives by simply treasuring and promoting the history, culture, language, and people upon which he left his indelible influence. Try to learn more about our history and read about Mongols from all regions. Reach out to other Mongols and learn about the similarities and differences we share with one another. Learn as much as you can, then pass it on to the next generation and encourage them to do the same. By doing so, we can ensure the longevity of the memory of Chinggis Khan and the empire that he built within our Mongol-American community and beyond, which is the greatest form of respect. Hamek Solden, Manek Tahifat, Hamjad Sar Irsin Homos, American Mongol Chodin Soitin Hawak, Chinggis Hani Durskaling Sani Buch Kishurba, Il Hurotsin Dirsin Zochta Bergla. Ha Bukli Demsliger Manek Tahuga Amjad Yahudaj. Anai Ha Bukli Bergla, Mane Ulugin Utuber Tanerka Tahuga Potaba. Finally, thank you to all the people who have helped us with ensuring the successful execution of the ceremony each year. The Chinggis Khan Memorial Foundation members, the Mongol American Cultural Association Board, and all of you, the attendees. Your continued support has helped us make today's event possible. Thank you again for coming, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the program.
За дараагийн үеэс орё одоо бэлгийн өргөө бөөн манай Монголд ирсэн байгаа. We have bэлгийн өргөө shamans from Mongolia visiting us, and they will perform a short ceremony for us.
오늘은 도름 속에서 몽골 한 도스타 오니까 아무나 못한 게 같아요.
sending my greetings to all the Mongols who came here for this ceremony.
За өнөөдрийн энэ хэзэн Монгол Чингис хааны маань сул тайлбар дахин ажил сул өрн оролцуулсан та бүхэндээ ялалаа.
Thank you for inviting me to participate, to be a part of this ceremony.
За бид бол Монголоос ирсэн улаач нар энэ тайлбарын арга хэмжээнд сүүлийн 3 жил дараалал оролцож байна.
We are shamans or ulachs from Mongolia, and this is our 3rd year participating in this ceremony.
За тэгээ одоо та бүхэндээ одоо бид Монгол тэнгэрээ залж Монголоосаа ерөөлийн хүснэ.
Now we will summon the Tingri and we will ask for the blessings from Tingri.
За тэгэхээр энэ чигсэн монголчууд бид бүгдээрээ эхлээд Монгол тэнгэрийг залхаас өмнө Монгол дуудлага.
Before we summon the Tingri, we need to call upon it.
Тэр дуудлага нь Тэнгэр, Монгол, газар гэсэн дуудлага байна.
We need to say Tingir, Mongol, Azar, or sky, Mongol, and land. We need to repeat it 3 times as it's shown on the screen.
Тэгээд эхлээд хүлээд би өөрөө эхлээд хэлэн та 3 удаа давтаж хэлээ.
And I will say it first. I will say it first, and then you need to repeat after him. Yeah.
За эхлээд бид хоёр хэзэн Чингис хааныхаа тахилгаанд хүндэтгэж үзүүлнэ.
First, we will show respect to the memory of Chinggis Khan.
За манай гэрэл өргөний улаач Монгол маань одоо Монгол тэнгэрээ болно. За одоо цогцороо 3 та энэ тэнгэр Монгол руу ирсэн болтой таттай би ихтэй хэлий зэрэг хэлээ дараа. Нэг хэлэхдээ 3 удаа.
So we will repeat after him. He'll start, and then when we say it, we need to say it 3 times at a time.
Тэнгэр. Тэнгэр. Тэнгэр. Тэнгэр. Тэнгэр. Тэнгэр. Монгол. Монгол. Монгол. Монгол. Монгол. Монгол. Азар. Азар. Азар. Азар. Азар. Азар. Тэнгэр. Тэнгэр. Тэнгэр. Тэнгэр. Тэнгэр. Тэнгэр. Монгол. Монгол. Монгол. Монгол. Монгол. Монгол. Азар. Азар. Азар. Азар. Азар. Тэнгэр. Тэнгэр. Тэнгэр. Тэнгэр. Тэнгэр. Тэнгэр. Монгол. Монгол. Монгол. Монгол. Монгол. Монгол. Азар. Азар. Азар. Азар. Азар. Азар.
Одоо тэгээд бүх бухаар юу амар байна уу гэж мэдхэнтэй. Тэгэхээр та бүх уцаагаад хариулаад Mindel taamad charutarata. Chimigu So we need to greet back. He will say hello or greetings. We'll need to say hello and greetings back. We need to respond for some. I'm thirsty with water. Need spring water to drink. Мэдчилж байна. Суудлын тавтай сэтгэл намар. Байна уу гэж. I come from far, far away to summon upon the spirits for this memorial service. It is very pleasant that the children are remembering their ancestors. It is pleasant that you are showing respect to your ancestors. to the masters and the royalties.
эзэн дээдсийг чинь хэлээд байна.
Chinggis Khan. Great Chinggis Khan, yes. It is pleasant that the children are honoring Chinggis Khan.
Нэгэнтэн хэлхэж байгаа нь яс урсаж байгаа цусандаа агсаж байгаа эс юугаар дамнаж байгаагаас үл энэ байтхаг үлдэх хүчиг байна. Чи уулгын өндөр муудах нь одоо
I'm very pleased that I'm here.
Хураач хадлах нь нэгэнтэн үлэн энэ уул таа үсийг хийж байгаа нь үлэн. Олон туурхтан цуглаж өв соёлон хадгалж хурааж байгаа чинь нэгэнтэн үл гэж хэлээд байна.
It is it gladdens my heart that all the Mongol children are gathered together and preserving their heritage and culture.
Тэгвэл нэгэн гарыг хурааж хадгалахаас илүүтэй хавар жилийн бусад гаригт нь түгээж барах сэтэл байх үгтэй.
It is important to preserve and remember and honor, but what's more important is to spread and promote it to the rest of the world.
Юу хэлэх гээд байна гэвэл үнэн гарагт та усны өв соёлоос үндэ хураасан асаасан учруу нэгэн хаврын бусад өдрүүдтэй хайр байна уу Монгол хуурсан байна уу бүгдэн үгүй өв соёлоо түрээ хүчтэй яриад байна.
As mentioned before, in one season you gather together and preserve and celebrate, but all the other seasons you need to spread it among each other, among all Mongols and to the foreigners and to the whole world.
Хүнээр зүйлээс та усан тарих гэвээс.
If we compare it to human, you children are the brains.
Та усан энэ гарыг тархины бодлоор цуглуулж байна гэвээс.
You're accumulating the knowledge and the wisdom into your brain. You're gathering.
Жилийн бусад өдрүүд нь та усан өөрийн гал өөрийн хөлөөн болгох олон үсэг Монгол өв соёлын түгээх тэр үлийг хийх ёстой гэж хэлээд байна да.
For the rest of the seasons, you need to use your hands and your feet and spread your message and spread your culture and your heritage to the rest of the world.
Ийм л үүлийн ийм л ачаалдах сэтлийг энэ зүрхэндээ бүгд үнэн гарагтаа жил жилийн хавар хаврын энэ гарагтаа асааж бараасан гэж хүснэ.
I wish that you rekindle that desire to preserve and to promote and to spread your culture and your heritage throughout the year and carry that and take it upon yourselves as your mission and your calling. I have not much more to say. Let your actions be towards the sky and progress towards the sky. Let your honor be spread for the rest of the world. As you near the end of your life, you will be proud of the life you've lived. Let you pass upon what you have to the next generation and to your children. Remember that Hukh Mongol or Blue Mongol will stay and will stand forever if your children are better than you and if you raise them to be better than yourselves. Blessings upon you. So we thank Olaj Mohat from Mongolia, from Gildimugo, and I hope we remember what he invited us to do, that we preserve our culture and teach it to our children, and also we spread it throughout the world. Okay, our next part of the ceremony is going to be children's praise in memory of Chinggis. Chinggis Khan Memorial Ritual, Nayan Yamota, and we invite Sanjay Tang, director of Chinggis Khan Memorial Foundation. Chinggis Khan-ы дурсгалын сангийн захирал Санжай Тангыг одоо ёслолын үйл ажиллагааг удирдахад хүрж байна.
Continuing from before, this is the 31st Chinggis Khan Memorial Ceremony, started by Gomajap Pangian, Zalam, and Lawson Baksha. 이게 더 되는 오신 넥도 바로 우단이 Chinggis Khan technical 기자서. And technical level was 아름다운 샷때. So there are 17 steps to get the shuttle be the time to jogi. Honjin Isnusang Shna. So Honjin reads the Isnusang text.
Om Sai Namgulung Botwai. За Sot Bot Chinggis Khan Ujinatne Hamtar Jayash Tushmut Nohusad Buktor Baisan Soichen Son Saiha Aaron Khalsitkalova Jahulkin Abundova John Amt Burtson Ikenedej Сүүний амт бүрдсэн оршааны шимээр чин сэтгэлээр хичээнгүлэн тавхнам бэд. За, Чингис нөхөд лүвэнийг нэ ариун их тахлаан жооглоо бадрамгүй их гал гуламтаан сахан сойхоо балар шүгэ төрөн батчгон сойхоо хамаг монголон хайрлан өшөө хамтран булгамтгийн хотхыг хайрлаа. За, сот бовд Чингис хаанаас эхлэн Сотын адна үжиннэхийн сахуулсан хийгээд сүр ихт сүлдийн сахуулсан хийгээд сүс ихт өрлөг ноёд танаа. Ариун цэцэг өнөр төжис амтд идгэн арх сахтаа өргөнөм. Ач усан югэн сойхоо аштын амгалын хайрлан сойхоо.
Hoidgar Shaktin Servi Zuller. Servi prepared the lamp offering. And Jonam offered the lamp. Dörtügar Shaktin Hoka Zolomshna.
Avrakcha Hambok Chinggis Hatin Hin Gugundar Hanol Etnartan Hamak Mangan Urstana Gugun Kur Julan Shangul Asad Susik Fishiklin Tilos Suktum Burgunam Bit Uruksnur Ushet Amansnar Eltit Sansnimi Mutaj Jorsen Man Burgun Hebra.
Taudovar Shatin Hasra Hill Ergin. So Hasra prepared the hill offering. Yonan presents the hill. Taudovar Shatin Honjin hill option. So Honjin reads the hip text.
Аврагчаа хаан богд Чингис хатан хингэгэн хаан нагуула ачнартан хамаг монгол үрстан аргун нэндэр хивэн алган дээрэн дэлгэж хүндэтгэлийн тойлоо нэлтгэн хөсөр сүвдэн өргөнөм бит өргөснөр өршөөж амлснаар айлтгаж боцсны минь бутон хайрлаа.
Namdawar Shatin Toli Sarkhtanur. Young Sarkhtanur. Artoar Shatin Hoka Sarkhat Olsen.
Avrakcha Hambok Chinggis Hatin Hin Gugundar Hanol Etnartana Hamak Mangal Urstana Wosen Salne Doj Worksen Terene Ship Sarhatin Dojar Shangul Murgunam Bed Ureksniman Jogla Amalsniman Eldmo Alter Naritan Dursaso Alten Soralitan Dagaso Ojim Washitan Manaso Auga Olamtitan Sehaso
Arın intikada şatın canın eksik olmuşsun. So the 11th step, John reads the testimonial text. Yapın repeat each stanza.
Chinggis ziyate,
Dörtünüz ziyade,
дэлхий төнөө ивэлтэй,
dilhi tüne yıkıldı.
дэлгэр Монголоо мандуулсан,
Dilgir Molla mandulsun,
дээд төрөлт Чингис хаан,
Dil Türk Çingiz Han.
атан дэлхийд алдартай,
Altın dilhi kaldırdı,
10 зүгт туурайтай,
arvın dük çoğayadı.
Аз зүрий донслогосон,
Az yürübi domslasın,
алдар ихэд Чингис хаан,
aldır yıkıt Çingiz Han.
хагацснаа хамтруулсан,
Hafistan hamdolsun,
хамаг Монголоо нэгтгэсэн,
hamık Molla nefkesin.
хаан тулсыг байгуулсан,
Han olsi bey olsun,
хараа ихэд Чингис хаан,
araya yıkıt Çingiz Han.
агуу нэрийнхэн магтаасуу,
Abu Nerikan Maktaso,
уугаа үлсийнхэн дуртаасуу,
Oga yılsıtın dörttaso,
алтан бошгойтон хамгаалсуу,
Altın Moşkikan Hamgaso,
ашит уламтыйтан сахиасуу,
Aşırı Olumpikan Sihaso,
гал уламттан бадраад,
Kal Olumtan Baldırat,
газар оронтон дэвжрээ,
Gacır Olumtan Devçire,
үндэсэн угсаатан хөгжөөд,
Undis'in Oksatın Hoca,
үр хөвгтөн өнөтгөө.
Urukten Urnitwe,
Arın koytukları şatın canın tugel olmuşsun. So the 12th step, John reads the laudatory text.
Ууга богдын үрс,
Oga Amkin Urus,
алтан яснаа төрөв,
Altın Yasne Törü,
ууга төрийн хамаалагч,
Abu Türin Hamgalıkç,
алдарт боржигд төгөө.
Aldık Borçluk Tübol,
Улас Монголын төрөд,
Ulus Monglin Türk,
улаан зүрхээр зүтгэсэн,
Ulan Cüpörün Cütüksün,
дөрвөн хөдгийн 9 өрлөг,
Dörvün Huluk İksim Urluk,
тэдний үрс төгөө.
Tedine Urus Tübol,
Хангайговын уудан орноо,
Hamday Oğlun Oğlum Ormana,
хамаг Монголын өдгийн нутгийн
Haluk Monglin Ulgin Utkin,
хадун уламтын сахин хамаалагч,
Haluk Oğlum Tiksen Hamgalıkç,
хатхан монголчууд төгөө.
Halak Mongolcu Tübol,
Тэнгэр уулаас хэнгэн даваан,
Finger Oğla Sergin Davan,
тэнүүн сайхан тань нутагтаа
Tenun Seyhan Tanrıtıktan,
өвс үйдэн бат хамгаалагч,
Uğuzayla Mak Hamgalıkç,
өвөр монголчууд төгөө.
Uğur Mongolcu Tübol,
44-ний үндсэн нэгтэн,
Türkçün nuruna Undis'in ektin,
хэрэлхэн нурууна угсаа нэгтэн,
Trilhin nuruna Oksan ektin,
ар өвөр хажаараа,
Arı Uğur Hacara,
уряд туа халмыг,
Uğra
алдар Монголын үрс төгөө.
Aldir Tomlin Urus Tübol,
Arın koytukları şatın mangla kalbolundan bilimkine. So the 13th step is mangla prepare the hearth offering. John'un performed the hearth offering and ceremony. Now we have the convocation. All yamtic circle and attain arrows. Arın zorgadıkları şatın koku dalgı olmuşsun. So the 16th step, koku reads the dalgı text.
자, 절금 졸긴 군은 닫지나, 함흑 울스탄 한익내 익달럭 달리지나, 한이치네 그건 하먹구스전 원티시 그시간 사이하
호레 호레 호레.
자 어려운 옥내는 그 어렵출러 대방 얼부훈
호레 호레 호레.
The young people returning the arrows. In the wall of the shooting can shut it. So this is the last step. The German reads the Pankrik, like so. Pankrik on Thompson. So,
Америкийн иргэн бит
man goes in the beginning.
алдарт Монголын үрс бит.
알들 방개인 오르스베
Соёл удамшлаар нь бардамнан бит.
Соёл удамшлаар бардам бит.
Сурвалж үндэснээ марханхан бит.
Сурвалж үндэсэн марханан бит.
Тэжигсэн орноо хөгжлий.
Тэжигсэн орныхаа хөгжлийг,
Төрөгсөн орноо мандлыг.
төрсөн орныхаа мандлыг,
Үндэсэн хоорондын найрамдлыг.
үндэс хоорондын найрамдлыг
Үргэлж гисэн иргэнэм.
үргэлж өснө 98.
Алан говагийн 5 хүүхдээ.
Алан говагийн 5 хүүхдээ,
Чогтой 5 мөсөөдөө.
чогтой 5 мөсөөдөө,
Амгаа хааны 5 хүүхдээ.
амгаа хааны 5 хүүхдээ,
Алганы 13 нууд.
алганы 13 нууд,
Хавл хааны 7 хүүг шиг.
хавл хааны 7 хүүг шиг
Эв найрамдлыг эрхэмлэнэ.
өв найрамдлыг эрхэмлэнэ.
That concludes the ritual part, and I thought we'll continue the program here.
Thank you. It was a beautiful ceremony, and thank you everyone for being reverent and showing our reverence. За энэ хэвшээ сэтгэлээр хэлж авсан та бүхэнд баярлалаа. За одоо манай дараагийн брейк хэсэг нь болохоор хүүхдүүд Чингис хааны дурсгалд одоо хүндэтгэл үзүүлж гэж орж ирнэ. Now we'll have the children showing honor to the memory of Chinggis Khan. За бүр хүүхдүүд Чингис хаандаа хүндэтгэл үзүүлчихлээ. All right, so next up we have our His Excellency Sukbal Tsukhe, Ambassador Sukbal Tsukhe from the Permanent Mission of Mongolia to the United Nations.
Тэгээд Монгол Америкийн соёлын холбоо Монгол Төв соёлын сангаас хамтран жил болгон зохион байгуулдаг Чингисийн тахилга нь өнөөдөр 31 дахь жилдээ болж байна. Тэгээд энэ тахилгыг зохион байгуулахад гар буй уулздаг монголчуудын холбоо үүсгэж санаачлах санжалтангаа хатлаа санжалтангаа өнөөдөр бусад бүх оролцож байгаа хүмүүстээ баярлалаа илэрхийлье. It's a so great pleasure to be here for me to celebrate 31st anniversary of the Chinggis Khan Memorial Ceremony, and also my appreciation goes to the Mongol American Cultural Association, Mongol Heritage Foundation, who are anonymously supporting this event to be successfully, and we all appreciate who are giving their hands for this event being possible. Thank you so much again for coming and being part of this event and trying to show how the Mongolian culture is very important and very great being in America. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ambassador Sukho. За, схолтой сайдаа баярлалаа өгсөн. Одоо we will have representatives of Mongolian communities sharing their feelings and sending their greetings. За, одоо тэгээд энэ Монгол турхнуудынхаа төлөөлөгч нарыг одоо урьж байна. Хамгийн ихний төлөөлөгч бол Андрей Кужугет, Туван олон нийтэс үг хэлхийг урьж байна. We invite Mr. Andrei Kuzhuget from Tuvan community. Let me just check.
Сайн байна. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Andrei Kuzhuget. I'm from Tuva. It's a small country in the center of Asia and nested on the border with Mongolia. So even though we Tuvan people, we don't speak Mongolian language, but we treat each other like brothers and sisters because we have same culture, same religion, same beliefs. Knowing from the history, Chinggis Khan was the greatest leader and the conqueror and the general who ever lived. He ruled a self-made kingdom of nearly 12 million square miles, which lasted in parts nearly 7 centuries. And those parts, great mission was simple. It was like unite the whole world in one empire. And Chinggis Khan never did this for his own sake. That's why we commemorate him for his accomplishments. I'm pleased to be invited to this beautiful ceremony. This is my 4th year participating as Yamutan. 1 year I was singing as well. This ceremonial tradition is to celebrate Chinggis Khan's achievements in life by Mongols and non-Mongols, but Mongols like people like from Hazara, Tuva, Kalmyk. And it started in 1988, and we respect the memories about our ancestors and leaders. We honor our culture and history. I have a gratifying hope that this meritorious tradition will be continued by our next generations. I'd like to express my gratitude to the organizers, Maka, and hopefully, today will be a great event. Food will be good, so please enjoy the tea, meat, boozers, and everything, and performance. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrei. Now we have Damara Shalkhanova from Kalmyk community. Hajmuk, Монгол улсаас Данара Шавхановаа өглөө.
Мендүт күнтэ ахныр дүйнөр алдар богды Чингис хааны ачийтэ нэрн цугы Монгол ясныр дуунды тәтэ. Түмін саған нарта урчлынды бәхі цуг монголчыдығы негдүлхі эңден өнір өскілінг Монгол орнутқы өнділіккі күсіл алдар богды зүйже зүйдікче yosunum. Tırı xolu kezenki çaktı, aldır boğdu, şorğası nikti, şorğırcınesi olun, bügde tergerin, devret, ciderin, ülderin de eldet. Eğden narta delkede, Mongolçudun çidil çimgin üzülce, ulan zalada Mongolçudun aldır batır nerige, öden berce yosun. Delken Mongolçudun tuğuçda altın üzger barıldat münkirce ültsmün. Endir bidin aldır boğda Chinggis Han'a saldırmut. Urda çekte öfkeyin avıkançın yapçı. Xoğurundan nenigin bәci. Ülder bişi. Cider bişi. Selmer çigin bişi. Oğlu ecin kelerin öfkünerin uğurha sangin zörer. Yengsik seyxin esmudarın, dümbür örgün doğarın, goyşık seyxin beyğarın, çuk Mongolçudun belik edip etmege negdülce, aldır boğdu Chinggis Han'a herte ürdügüsün, neren öden berce, narta delkede, tuğruce yolçaydı.
Now we have Darina Sanjeva from Buryat community. Ana Buryat Mongol Topluluğundan Darina Sanjeva fotoğrafı.
Saudre халун амырмынды сен бәна. Күндікті Америка бұрынды ажығыдық Монгол оқсатып, бағды екі Чингис ханды зарылдығын хәндір ор табығыдыне оның түркін ғо амыршалынып. Чингис ханы нағысы үжін барбуджин токун гыжытонды тәйім гыжы қылсыдық. Тимығы барбуджин токун тәй Чингис ханны екі холботы гыжы қылсыдық. Би баха барбуджин токун тонды тәй хунгашып. Тимығы Бултыйтне Чингис ханда зарылдығын хәндір ор ушоды хин амыршалат. Табығыдындо ылурын хый хусот, ажылдытне амжалтые, холы ғазырты өптeye бақытне хусынып. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Darina Sanjieva, and I'm a representative of Buryat Mongolian community here in the United States of America. And I would like to congratulate everyone with this wonderful event. And I would like to give a short, brief introduction about Buryat Republic. So the Republic of Buryatia is a federal subject in Russia, located in Siberia in Asia, and it borders with Mongolia in southeast. There are 500,000 Buryats today, with half in the Lake Baikal area and half elsewhere in the former Soviet Union, Mongolia, China, and the United States of America. Nowadays, our Buryat Mongolian community is growing year by year, and taking a chance, I'd like to thank Mongol American Cultural Association for supporting us, and it's a big honor to participate in this very meaningful for us event. And this is our 5th year of participation in this ceremony. And once again, I want to say thank you, Mongol American Cultural Association, the Chinggis Khan Memorial Foundation for having us and uniting us. And we have a small gift from our community for Mr. Sanjal Tangach, please. For Mr. Chu, and also for Mr. Chinggis. So yes, thank you very much, and have a wonderful event and evening today. We'll see you later. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer, for the kind words and the gifts. Now we have Mupat Tosumastik from Armongas. Armongas, Mupat Tosumastik Ahaldau Kihne.
Эцэг Чингис хааны захидлыг ярьсан. Онцгой процесс эдгний Монгол ахын дүүс. Тэхэн зочтой энэ дээр ямар амгалан байдаг. Намайг боочод тусгай шиг мөнгөдөг би найраад мөч Монгол эдний анги клубад одоо 2 жил явж байгаа. Манай сурагчдад эцэг Чингис хааны тактик махин ба хамчаад апплод орж адрес машин дээр Түүх соёлоо мэддэг чинь аа турсан хүмүүстэй байгаа. Монголчуудад их түүх ёсоочтой хүүхдтэй одоо үзүүлсэн ард юм байна. Оддын Чингис хааны мэдсэлүүд одоо зохион байгуулж тактикээс энэ байгаа хүүхд залуус их түүх хэд соёлоос сургууль сурцах сэдв болно гэдэг чинь. Одоо энэ хэмжээ зохион байгуулж Америкийн монголчуудын соёлын онцлог хадгалсан юм. Эзаны сүрсүүд тавьдаг мөнхөд тавх ясаас үүсгэх сэдвч юм болдог.
Participating in the ceremony. He's very honored to be here. He teaches a foreign language in Washington, D.C. to the children. Our next greeting will be coming from Mr. Mantla Barchon from the Uber Mongol community. Uber Mongolas Mantla Barchon Khadokikne.
Today I am representing Inner Mongolian community, also known as Southern Mongolian communities, to talk a little bit about hopes, prospects of Inner Mongolian education, as well as some crisis. So title is there. So Inner Mongolian education is basically at school from elementary to go up to college graduation, basically based on tests. Everything, any entrance, exams, everything, admissions, all based on test scores. And at the school, the students' education is really lack of some family education, as well as a lot of emotional bonding to the families, as well as to the fellow students, also to their parents. So here is a short video describing what is going on. It's more like scholastic bullies, educating scholastic bullies at school. So that okay, that was actually elementary students, how the fellow students treat each other and it's really a disciplinary education. And at the college, the goal of college students, majority of the students, they would like to have a government, like public service positions. So that's also based on some exam test. So even some students prepare for several years, like 6-7 years, still hard to get public service positions. And so that their here saying is about 80 Mongolian graduates, college graduates in Beihai, Guangxi province, doing some kind of pyramidal sales schemes, get trapped in that kind of some kind of camp-like positions, and it's really hard to get out of that trap. So these are some of the crises in Inner Mongolian education, which is not looking great, but we still have quite a few bright girls and boys in this room. They come out of Inner Mongolia to study in the United States. They are our hopes and prospects. And in the society, the patriotic education is really going on great in Inner Mongolia, Southern Mongolia. So this is one of the articles published in mass media. It's about the praising the society as well as the parties and the country. So this leads to the Inner Mongolians or Southern Mongolians, they are actually losing their own identity as a Mongolian, more like a Zhonghua nationalities, etc. So there are some people actually publicly singing songs and praising the parties, the countries as well. So here's one of our very well-renowned musician, Chivalak, that is in the mass media. I got accepted from mass media. And also some publics, they are singing songs praising Chairman Mao and society, etc. In the meantime, some families are sending their kids to like Mongolia. If you look at the top left corner, that picture, the summer camp picture. So they send their kids to Mongolia to study Mongolian culture and a lot of cultural exchange things going on. That's our hope. And also I myself actually hosting Mongolian students come to the United States, attending summer camps. I have done twice so far, and the next year will be my third time. Okay, these are some issues and the hopes of our Inner Mongolian, Southern Mongolian student education. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Manta, for giving us insight to the lives and the experiences of Over Mongols. За одоо Over Mongols-дагаа хамт үзсний өндөр болон бас хийж байгаа үйл ажиллагааны талаар одоо танилцуулсан баярлалаа Манлаахтаа. Тэгээд манай дараагийн хүн бол манай зочин бол Аббас Чанггази. Энэ Аббас Чанггази Хазара Монгол төрөлхтнийг хийж үзлээ. Mr. Abbas Chinggis from Hazara community.
Good afternoon, Mongols. Good afternoon, everyone. The Mongols nation was scattered and involved in civil wars for many years. It didn't have a unified identity exactly the situation we have experiencing today. With the rise of Chinggis Khan, these unknown and scattered Mongol nations become the largest military force in human history. Chinggis Khan, by using the comprehensive, inclusive political strategy instead of the exclusive political strategy, not only united the Mongol tribe, but also unified the political interest of the ethnic Turks and Mongols, and created the largest empire in the human history. Mongol conquest are still on the most mysterious conquest of the human history, it is difficult to understand how the Mongols so quickly overthrew the great empires, including the Islamic Caliphate, and made the entire world recognize their power. Chinggis Khan was a man committed to the destiny of the people. He didn't want power and position for himself. He was allied to the collective fate. It was through his loyalty to the collective fate of the Mongol people that he was able to make everyone unite and committed. He is a teacher of loyalty and self-confidence. He taught the Mongols that every Mongols united and committed. The Mongols are born to rule, and they are the undisputed ruler of the world. Of course, that was not just slogan. He was at the forefront of the risk acceptance. He was not afraid of the danger and didn't afraid death. Chinggis Khan punished the corrupt government of that time, ended the ruthless empires. Many lands were conquered. Each soldier stood before the division. India and China was conquered. The Caliphate of Baghdad, who was oppressed the people in the name of God, was removed from the power, which provided the liberty and freedom to the people. Subhadar Bahadur quickly conquered Russia, entered to the Europe. The Mongol, despite their small population, through the inclusive political and internalizationing the political enemies managed to dominate the 25% of the planet Earth, which is something unprecedented in the human history. Unlike the nationalist narrative, which depicts that the Mongols were wild and bloodthirsty, the Mongols' empire was founded on tolerance according to Yasa. The Mongol didn't have the right to have particular religion or tribes. In their view, all the religions are accepted and respectful. And all tribes and people should be treated equally. From analytical point of view, it is impossible for a small tribe to dominate and rule 25% of the world. Instead, all members of their society were considered equal before the bill. According to the Mongol knowledge, among the Mongols, knowledge and skill are special place, and all scholars, scientists, and artists were highly regarded. They were tax exempt, and every Mongol soldier was banned to respect them. Freedom of the opinion and respect for knowledge, art, and literature were flourishing. The most important literary history and philosophical texts of Persia were developed during the Mongol era. The visual art, which was banned with the rise of Islam, was greatly developed and expanded during the Mongol era. What today is called Iranian Islamic art, and to be satisfied that their ancestor built the largest empire in the human history. The question is why the political power of the Mongols declined in the world. And suddenly, the massive and global political power came to nothing. What kind of mistakes we have met in losing conquered land, and why are we no longer dominated global power? I think the answer to these questions should be searched for the evolution of the power and structure and social system. The Mongol power was based on the pluralism and integration of the political power in the structure of the Mongols' culture and power. Each Mongol was cosmopolitan, and the world, the home of the Mongols. Claiming that the Mongol was a plunder and the enemy of the cities is an error in the historical narrative. The Mongols were not enemy of the cities. They were cosmopolitan and sought to rule the world just.
Thank you, Chinggis. If you want to talk to him more and learn more about Hazara Mongols, please go and say hello to him afterwards or during the break or during dinner. Тэгээд Hazara community-с бас Chinggis яхаа баярлалаа. Hazara монголчуудын талаар мэддэггүй тийм Монголтай ямар холбоотой одоо Монгол төрч Hazara оюутнууд төрч байж байгаа Монголд сураад тэгэхээр бид нэр бас ингээд энэ Монголоос гадуур байгаа ахын дүүстэйгээ маш сайн танилцж аваад цаанхаа холбоосыг илүү батлах хэрэгтэй байгаа. Our next speaker will be Mr. Tony Ettinger, Director of MACA and MCADF. Please, Tony, дараач одоо манай инженер гүрүү Монгол Tony Ettinger байгаа. Is Tony here? Oh yes, she's coming.
Okay, so I'll speak.
Yeah.
So Tony is not here, so let me say a few words on his behalf. Tony Ettinger, bakwato tigat pinagsurp no Tony on the So the MCADF, the Mongolian Children's Aid and Development Fund, was established more than 10 years ago, and over the past 10, 20 years has provided substantial cultural and charitable support to Mongolian children in Mongolia, in Mongol, and in Kalmykia. And over the past 3 or 4 years, the emphasis has shifted from charitable, cultural to environmental. So over the past 3 to 4 years, we have been supporting the Wildlife Conservation Society in Mongolia to support their programs of environmental sustainability and the wildlife of Mongolia. This year we provided funds to support 3 initiatives, and we hope to continue to support the WCS programs in Mongolia moving forward in the future as well. If you'd like to know more, you can always talk to Tony or one of the MACA directors who can say a few words, give you more information about it. Okay?
And Tony's and all the organizations that are supporting the wildlife and the children of Mongolia. So now we'll go on a very short break because we're a little bit behind. 10-minute break. We're all coming back. We're a little bit refreshed after eating some borsuk and drinking some tea. За одоо манай дараагийн арай өгч бол Professor Timothy May, North Georgia-гийн их сургуулийн профессор байгаа. Associate Dean гэж захирал байгаа. Тэгээд өнөөдрийн сэдв нь ярих сэдв нь болохоор The Chinggis Exchange, the legacy of Chinggis Khan in Eurasia. Монгол хэлээр бол Евразиас дахь Чингис хааны ов болон Чингис хаан, Чингисийн солилцоо гэсэн тийм сэдвээр ярихаар ирсэн байна. За одоо профессор Тимоти Мэя бүлээн авч ускацгаая.
Seminole. As my Mongolian has become very poor over the past years, I'm going to limit myself to that and begin talking about Chinggis Khan. It's my pleasure to be here as your guest speaker at this truly unique event. I am greatly honored to have been invited here and to participate in this affair. And as we're here to remember and commemorate the deeds of Chinggis Khan, I think it's important to consider Chinggis Khan not only as the founder of the Mongol Empire, a military genius and the father of the Mongolian people, but also to appreciate his legacy in world history. Indeed, his creation of the Mongol world empire had a profound and irrevocable change throughout Eurasia and even the world. This goes beyond the fact that the Mongol Empire had been the largest contiguous empire in history, which is noted in every textbook on world history or anything that mentions the Mongols. Indeed, in terms of square miles, the Mongol Empire was almost as large as the entire continent of Africa, or roughly 3 times the size of the United States. The legacy of Chinggis Khan, and indeed the Mongol Empire, which cannot be separated from him, is what I call the Chinggis Exchange, a perceptible shift in technology, ideas, culture, religion, warfare, and many other areas. I've discussed this at great length in my book, The Mongol Conquest and World History, but this afternoon I will give a shorter discussion of some of the key points. Now, here we have the Mongol Empire in 1300, but of course, before the rise of the Mongols, the world looked a bit different. And a scan of this map shows how many different countries and states existed at this time. And by 1400, not only had a vast number of polities disappeared from history due to the Mongol conquest, but new ones arose from the ashes of the Mongols as the Mongol Empire began to dissolve and disintegrate. Indeed, those that did emerge from the ashes of the Mongol Empire drew heavily upon Mongol institutions and customs, including, but not limited to, the Ming Empire, Muscovy, and the Ottomans. So if we fast forward to 1500, we see even more states drawing upon the legacy of the Mongols. We have the Safavids in Iran, which came out of the emergence of the Ilkhanate, and when it fell, a number of states emerged, and then finally consolidating into the Safavids. The Mughals in India and Afghanistan, and even a number of khanates emerging from the ruins of the Golden Horde, such as Crimea, Kazan, Astrakhan, and Sibir, from which Siberia gets its name. Among many of them, the importance of links to the Altan Uruk, or the family of Chinggis Khan, remain important, whether it was a direct descent through marriage to a Chinggisid princess, or through descent from one of his Chinggis Khan's companions. Eurasia continued to be dominated by the legacy of the Mongols well into the 17th century, as the Russian Empire vied with the Qing, the Ottomans, Kazakhs, Dzungars, Kalmuks, and Uzbeks for control of the steppes. Now, all these groups had ties to the Mongols, and not until the 20th century did the last state with a direct link to the Mongols fall, and that was the Khanate of Khiva, and only due to the rise of the Soviet Union. Beyond geography, we should also turn to trade. Due to the Mongol Empire, trade flourished unlike it ever had before in the 13th century. When Chinggis Khan's son, Ogedei, became Khan and established the city of Karakorum, it was a city of no importance to trade. But Ogedei quickly changed that. He often paid the value of goods by 2 or 3 times as much to the chagrin of his advisors and ministers of finance. They often told him to not do that, but he always ignored them and paid however much he wanted. But what this did do, although it seemed like a foolish policy to his ministers, it attracted merchants from all over Eurasia to come to Mongolia, to come to Karakorum. Indeed, in many ways, it was not just a capital, but simply where the Mongols kept their treasure as they continued to nomadize around the Orhan River Valley. Yet while Ogedei established Karakoram, Chinggis Khan may be credited with the wisdom of seeing the value of promoting trade and reducing barriers to trade. And indeed, today, many people, many advocates of globalism credit the Mongols with this. He actively sought to establish trade relations with neighbors and protected his investments. Indeed, the invasion of the Khwarezmian Empire in Central Asia was not overworld conquest as is often depicted, but rather the recovery of goods stolen from a caravan that Chinggis Khan and many of his family invested in. When merchants from the Khwarezmian Empire initially made contact with Chinggis Khan near Zhongdu, or modern Beijing, Chinggis Khan recognized the value of trade and hired many of those very merchants to serve him and to lead his own caravan. And when he sent this caravan into the Khwarezmian Empire, as I said, many members of his family invested in it. And when it was massacred by a greedy governor, he retaliated. But one of the things that he always sought was the recovery of the goods that he and his family had paid for. Now, Chinggis Khan also took steps to ensure that trade thrived. Prior to the rise of Chinggis Khan, merchants paid tariffs and taxes whenever they crossed the borders of a new kingdom. With the Mongol Empire stretching from the Sea of Japan all the way to the Carpathian Mountains, the Mongols insisted merchants pay a tax, or what was known as the tamga, of roughly 5% of the value of their goods when they came in. Then the merchants received a stamped piece of cloth or paper showing that they had been paid. And after that, they could go anywhere and show this and would not have to pay any additional tariffs or taxes on those goods. Now, when they left the Mongol Empire, they still had the same barriers, but within, trade was much easier. And the cost of business was greatly reduced. And so that goods coming out of Asia into Europe and vice versa cost very little compared to what they did before the Mongol Empire. In addition, the Mongols provided security not only through their conquest, but also by actively suppressing bandits. It was said that a virgin with a platter of jewels on top of her head could crisscross the Mongol Empire without being molested. It's probably a slight bit of exaggeration, but the Mongols did take very strong efforts to reduce banditry. And again, this further reduced the cost of doing trade. But as the Mongols also allowed merchants access to the jam stations, that's depicted as, they could also receive what's known as a gerege, or passport, or peza in the Chinese. And this would allow them to have access to fresh animals to carry their merchandise. Also, again, reducing the cost of doing business. Mongols also expanded the number of wells to be found in the steppes, ensuring a water supply to all who traveled on their routes. Again, with the lower cost of transportation and security, trade flourished. Of course, one cannot discuss the Mongols without turning to war. Indeed, the Mongol Empire was created through the crucible of warfare. And while it's often mistakenly thought that Chinggis Khan sought to conquer the world, if one actually examines his actions, there's no evidence to support this other than documents written after his death. Indeed, a study of his military actions demonstrated his primary concern was to secure the new Yeke Mongol Ulus that he had built in Mongolia. Yet even the wars of unification in Mongolia came about somewhat haphazardly. It was not a grand plan, but it was one that occurred and that Chinggis Khan accepted as events unfolded. Once the various groups of Mongolia were united, Chinggis Khan's excursions outside of Mongolia were twofold. The first was to eliminate threats of rivals who fled from Mongolia and who could also become a source of opposition to his new state. The second was to end the meddling of neighboring secondary powers in steppe affairs, whether it was the Jin Empire, Xixia, or Kharkite. Even when the Mongols invaded outside, their behavior was a bit different from what you expect from a ruler who allegedly tried to conquer the world. When the Mongols conquered Xixia, they did not occupy it. They did not station troops there permanently, at least not initially. Rather, they accepted tributes and allowed them to continue along their own affairs. Of course, if you rebelled against the Mongols, that was a different matter. When the Mongols invaded the Jin Empire, initially they did not seek to conquer it, but rather they only occupied the strategic mountain passes leading to Mongolia. Conquest occurred only after 1215, when the Jin moved their capital farther from the border, farther south. This raised Chinggis Khan's suspicions that the Jin were up to something. And this was after the Jin had made a peace treaty with the Mongols. Once you lost Chinggis Khan's trust, then all bets were off. Also, the Mongols began to conquer the Jin Empire as increasingly more people deserted to them, indicating that they viewed him as a better or perhaps more just ruler, more legitimate ruler than their own former emperor. As I mentioned before, the Mongols had no intention to invade Central Asia, but their expansion to what is now Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan had to do with protecting vassals as well as eliminating a refugee prince who could have been a threat. It was only after the Razmians slaughtered the caravan that Chinggis Khan had invested in that the Mongols invaded. But even then, they did not seek to occupy all that they conquered. I believe it is only after Chinggis Khan died that the Mongols then took a moment and saw what they had accomplished in his lifetime. While I somewhat doubt that his sons or anyone else realized at that point that Chinggis Khan had conquered more territory than any single person in world history, they undoubtedly knew that it was a heck of a lot of territory. Obviously, Monkey Koki Tingri, or the eternal blue sky, must have favored him. What other explanation could there be for the success of a man who in his childhood only had his horse's tail for a whip and his shadow for a friend? His sons and grandsons would continue to expand the empire, but they did so with the strategies and techniques that Chinggis Khan developed. Although much of his military success was based on tried and true methods of steppe warfare, he also innovated new methods and formations. It is these innovations, such as the shiuchi, or chisel attack, that became in Europe known as the caracole, that gave him an advantage over other nomads. In this attack, you had files of soldiers who would ride forward, shoot arrows, and then wheel back. And they'd always stay a safe distance so that if the opponent charged, they could retreat quickly. But it's from this base formation and attack that they were then able to move into other formations and other attacks. But this formed the basis of a new form of warfare with other nomads had not really seen. And this changed everything. Through this formation and other military reforms instituted by Chinggis Khan, the Mongols' art of war dominated well past the prime of their empire. To be sure, they were not invincible, but none of their opponents were foolish to think that the threat of conquest vanished. Part of their dominance was tied to their continuing ability to adopt new tactics, technology, and personnel. The Mongol military, despite appearances, never remained stagnant. They brought in new groups, new people who did not fight like the Mongols, but found ways of utilizing their abilities. And although the Mongol Empire encountered gunpowder weapons, and even used them, they never became a major component of their arsenal, although they could prove useful under appropriate circumstances. It was not until roughly 1500 that cannons developed significantly to be a major factor in steppe warfare, as they had a sufficient range and power to disrupt formations of horse archers from a greater distance than the Mongol bow. Then, with the further development of muskets, infantry equipped with these weapons could now compete with horse archers on a more equal basis, as they took less time to train, and the weapons could be produced more easily than a bow. The Mongols created a truly international wrestling world for their own amusements. All these transfers of people, however, had an unexpected effect. Ethnogenesis, the creation of people. New identities came into existence. For instance, a major component of the Keshik, or bodyguard of the Yuan emperors in East Asia, included a group known as Alans, an Iranian people from the north of the Caucasus Mountains. They were known as the Az, and today are known as Ossetians, living just north of Georgia. Yet the group that moved to China took on a new identity. When the Mongols withdrew from China, these Oz, as part of the bodyguard, also accompanied the UN emperor back to Mongolia, and they stayed. And over time, their culture lost its Iranian identity and Mongolized, and now are known today as the Asut. We see a number of similar situations emerge throughout the former Mongol Empire. As before, I mentioned the Hazaras of Afghanistan are believed to be the descendant of Mongol troops stationed in Afghanistan beginning in the 1230s. Originally, they were part of what was known as a Tama, or a military body, or unit, of the Mongol General Dair. And over time, they became known as the Kara-Unas. They remained a significant force and power in the region well into the 1400s. Hazara means 1,000 in Persian, the same number used in the typical Mongol military, a mingan. The Uzbeks and Kazakhs also emerged as distinct groups in the shadows of the Mongol Empire, as did the Oirats, who prior to the Mongol Empire were a group of minor importance in the 12th century. Yet through the crucible of the Mongol Empire, by the 1400s, they could vie not only with the northern Yuan Mongols, but also the Ming Empire. They also later gave rise to the Zhungars, who challenged both the Qing and Russian empires. But also, one cannot forget the Kalmuks, of which so many are present here, also derived from the Oirat confederations of the 17th century. Due to the rise of Chinggis Khan, the world has changed. In the past, most of the world remembered Chinggis Khan simply as a conqueror who swept across Eurasia more as a force of nature than a leader. The sheer apocalyptic accounts of destruction wrought by the Mongols tend to overshadow anything else they did. In itself, this is not surprising. The rise and success of the Mongols baffled not only their contemporaries, but also the scholars who studied them in the 19th century and earlier, and even the 20th century. The fact that historians of the modern era viewed history as a march of industrial progress also obscured their vision of what happened outside the sedentary world. Outside the West, in countries conquered by the Mongols, many tried to explain why their countries fell behind the West. The Mongols were a convenient scapegoat, whether explained through the historical steps of communism or wanting to find a momentous occasion when everything changed from a nostalgia, a golden age of nostalgia, such as in the Islamic world. Again, too often these historians do not attempt to study the Mongol Empire as a distinct entity, but more as a phenomenon. Fortunately, this has changed for a more balanced and nuanced study and the understanding of Chinggis Khan and the Mongol Empire. Whereas in the past, only negative aspects were attributed to Chinggis Khan. I think, however, that most historians, and gradually and increasingly so, most of the general public, the general population, are beginning to see Chinggis Khan for what he really was. A man, a conqueror, a lawgiver, a founder of a nation, but one like all people, not without his flaws, but flaws that did not diminish him. He learned from his mistakes and made a vast empire, larger than any has ever known. And his flaws never diminished his accomplishments. For history, when properly studied, is not always pretty, but it does make us realize when something remarkable does happen, whether through a person or event, it can truly leave an indelible mark upon the world stage. And I thank you for your time and for listening to me.
So, who has read Mongol history, Secret History of Mongols? Lost Tashjar Songs Qararwara. Who has read Secret History of Mongols? Not everyone? How many times have you read it? Only four. Three times. Okay, you guys read it. You gotta read it. Okay, so all right. We all need to read at least the Secret History of Mongols, right? Тэгэхээр бид нэр одоо нус тосчоо уншаагүй хүмүүс гаруудад дахиад уншаагүй хүмүүс. People who have not read Secret History of Mongols. Okay, so you gotta read it. It's available in all languages. Одоо монгол хэл дээр байна те. Хэрвээ та нарыг уншихаас залхуураад авах юм бол юм үнгүй app байгаа. You can download it. There's an app that you can listen to Secret History of Mongols in Mongolian language as well. Ask me, okay, if you are curious about it. So our next speaker would be PhD. She is going to talk about revelations of Mongol queens. За манай дараагийн яриаг болохоор доржиг хэсэг сүрэн ихч доктор хэсэг сүрэгч байгаа. Тэгээд Монгол хаттын илчлэлт гэсэн одоо тийм яриагаар бид нарт одоо зөндөө зааж өгнө. When it comes to Mongolian history, we always talk about Chinggis Khan and his sons and men, right? And we only talk about like Mandoha Hatang a little bit, but there are so many more queens. So many more queens and female warriors and leaders in our history that we need to learn about them and their wisdom too. Тэгэхээр бид нэг Монголын түүх гэхээртэй зөвхөн Чингис хаан, Хувлаа хаан гэж надад ингээд ихтэй хүмүүсийн талаар яриад. Зөвхөн ингээд эмэгтэй хүмүүсийн талд бол нэг Мантхай цаатан ингээд өөр хүмүүсийн талаар нэг сайн мэддэггүйтэй эсвэл өөлөг нэг эсвэл бүртөө гэж. Тэгэхээр тэр манай хатад ч юм бол одоо нөгөө хатан ухаан гэдэг шүү дээ. Тэгэхээр манай хатад бол бид нарт ингээд зөндөө их зааж тэднээс зөндөө сурах зүйлүүд зөндөө байгаа. Тэгэхээр бид нараас хаттынхаа түүхийг хаттынхаа одоо энэ үлдээсэн сургамжийг бид нэр илүү их бас сурах хэрэгтэй байгаа шүү.
Hello everybody. Thank you Maka and Mr. Sanjaltang for allowing me to present my paper here today. The topic of my presentation is the book Revelations of Mongol Queens with the subtitle Queen Sutra. The spirits of great queens relaying their stories and actual history of early Mongols through the shamans who recorded their narratives for transcribing. This book is written by the spirits, though shaping it into a book, editing, publishing, and translating processes accomplished by team effort of the shamans, activists, translators, who are volunteers of the Gurlingurgo Chamber of Lights shamanic group in Mongolia. I prepared this in English, but I'll give very short in Mongolian. Иноза богийн онгодын өвөлмжээр бүтсэн судрыма. Монгол хаттын онгон түүхийн гэлбаа гэсэн нэрээр Монгол улсад хэвлэгдсэн судрыма. За игрүүн судрын талаар сонирхол биэнд хэвлсэн хуудас байгаа. Энийг дараа нь та бүхэн авч үзэж болно. Okay, why is this book important? It is compiled from direct communications with the Supreme Spirits. It contains life stories of Mongol queens and their narratives about concepts of love, care, responsibility, which is the true essence of the queen wisdom. Since the queen's life stories are connected to the times from 18 AD to the 15th century, it is directly related to the history of the time and the chronicle secret history of Mongols. Okay, so I'm going to explain this on these 3 planes. Let me show you first a brief review on secret history of Mongols. Okay, this is the original text. The first text in Uyghur has the opening line, Chinggis Hagane Yajgur. And then a manuscript was compiled into a Mongol chronicle called Topcham. But unfortunately, those 2 did not survive. And then Chinese translation was made under different titles. Shilu, Yuan Shi, Yuan Pishi, Yuan Chao Pishi, okay. All different titles and all different versions of transcriptions were made. And then later on, Lobsang-Danzan's Altan Tokchuk was found in the 1700s, which copied most of the secret history of Mongols. And later, starting in 1800s, transcriptions were made into different Chinese, Uyghur, Latin, and Cyrillic scripts. And then the secret history of Mongols were translated into 20 different languages. Now 70 books so far. So I'll just show you the list. Okay, the recent translation is a 3-volume work of Igor der Rachwelt. And his 3-volume work of translation, he stated in his book that the later editors in the Yuan and early Ming periods interfered with the original text by interpolating, transferring, deleting, and adding material which would explain the internal historical and inconsistencies as well as other puzzling aspects of the text. So this emphasizes that the historical facts deviated from the original text. And the next, none of those historical sources describe Mongol queens and their legacy as historical figures that performed influential roles in shaping of the great empire. The only book about the Mongol queens were Jack Weatherford's Mongol History of the Secret History of the Mongol Queens, but it was also based on the same source, so it has the same historical errors. From this, I can state the 2 facts. Early Mongol history books have errors, and the Mongol queens were merely mentioned in them. So the Queen Sutra is correct those errors and fill the gap. Now let's talk briefly about the shamanism. Shamanism is a widely studied discourse within anthropological, ethnographic, religious, and cognitive science fields. The bibliography on shamanic topic is over 100 pages long. So to name only a few, here is one an encyclopedia, 2-volume book about shamanism. In this book, it defines the shamanism as a living, vital phenomenon, and it's an ancient spiritual practice, and shamans are globally distributed. The hallmarks of shamanism are most clearly seen historically and currently in Siberia, Mongolia, and Indonesian geographical area. Also, it says it is an area of academic study, rich and rapidly evolving field. From this, you can see that shamanism is widely studied as spiritual phenomenon. Here is a short list of shamanic books of Mongolia in English. It doesn't include books in Mongolian, so I only took 30 books of well-known scholars. European and American scholars have done researches on Darfat, Buryat, Horching, Dao shamans and their ethnographic details, historic and societal aspects, as well as shamanic rituals, poems, and songs. But shamanic faith is not organized religion, so it has never had books of doctrine. Now the New Age shamanism of Mongolia, that started in the early 90s, has been publishing its first shamanic spirit books. Total of 15 books so far, and one is the Queen Sutra. The process of creating the book starts with the shaman seance, in which spirit comes to narrate. As you see when shaman performed today, the great spirit comes to the shaman body and talks to you. So that's how they recorded the talk and then transcribed into a book. So this is the content of the book. It has 7 chapters and 41 sub-chapters. You can see the queens from early Mongol tribes, queens of the Hamok Mongol tribe, and then chapter 3 is queens of the Great Mongol Empire. Chapter 4, queens of the Great Mongol Empire disintegration. Chapter 5, daughters of Great Chinggis Khan. Chapter 6, queens of the Yuan dynasty. Chapter 7, queens of the late Middle Ages. Here I took a few citations from the sutra. Mother Alungo is narrating here. I'm Mother Alungo. What is that? She was interested in a camera that was recording. Welcome, Mother. This is a modern instrument for recording voices and images. Mother Alungo, can it record my image? It cannot, but it cannot. It cannot, but it will record the image of your shaman messenger. But sometimes it catches images when the spirit moves. Mother Alungo, it may not be related to the movement. The spirit image can be seen to humans when they appear in the middle of 2 lights, but it has to be 2 natural lights. It was captured in my pictures. It has a round shape. Mother Alungo, spirits have different shapes. The right angle, symmetric shapes are the right spirits. However, evil spirits and demons have the image of asymmetric, irregular shapes. Also, some images were more like humans. Mother Alungo, when a spirit enters a shaman body, its round shape develops legs, hands, and head. It's called forming of a body. So the next is the picture that captured spirit images. That round shapes with the different density, the spirit images. Next citation of Mother Ogulon. Shaman Ayingat, did you give birth at the Dilum Baldak of Anang River? It said the baby was named after Temujin Ugay of Tatar. Mother Ulum, yes, I gave birth while returning from a war. but a different name was given to him for different reasons. Temujin's name might sound like Timuchin because both have the same meaning. Timudel means strive. That might have made the writer confused about it. It is common that people have the same names, but since many children didn't reach the age of 3 at the time, we would delay giving names until the age of 3. After consulting the shamans, we would give names to our children as given name, but those names might get changed after they reach the age of 7. If the child has shamanic insight, he or she would be given a long-lasting name, name of fame, which would rule his destiny. So the first name was given to Temujin was not a Temujin, it was a Iyedu, or Ikhnudin, that means big eye. The next citation, Batun asking, how many schools were then? Queen Sarfaktan, there were 4 schools. Hokturmuste School was for princes and ministers. Tools Grove School was for Queen School for girls and medicine training. There was a school of astronomy, mathematics, and divination in Qinghai, and another school in Daido. Where were Qinghai and Daido? Queen Sarfaktan. They were on the Mongol land, near the Yellow River. Daido had a religious school where all religions were taught. Were there any books for the courses? Queen Sarfaktan. Yes, we had books thanks to Queen Pushta's help. Was it possible to practice in medical courses? Queen Sarfaktan. Yes, there was a big pavilion for teaching medical practice by the Tool River. People would bring their family members who were sick. They were not responsible for mistakes since it was free clinic. If it had been paid hospital, doctors would have been responsible. Here the maps try to locate those schools. Qinghai is now the province in China, so that Qinghai school probably somewhere in that area. Daidu was present-day Beijing, was built as the second Mongol capital, also known as Hambalek, meaning the city of the emperor. Hokturmuste school was near the Lake Heras. Tools Grove school is, of course, it was on the Toll River. Okay. Conclusion. These spirit books are outstanding in a sense of touching the direct source and introducing the first-time correspondence with the great Mongol queens via their spiritual presences. This book is beneficial to historians, philologists, researchers, and a wide range of readers who is interested in history, shamanism, and transcendentalism. It is the new knowledge for filling the gap in the history and clarifying the historical facts of the great Mongol Empire. With the translation done, now the publishing issue arises, which includes publishing process, cost, marketing, and it needs help. The Chamber of Lights seeks support on this matter, the publishing this book in the US. This is an open invitation for shamanic festival, international festival in California. It's called the Mother Earth International Shamanic Festival in Mount Shasta, McLeod, California, this December 22nd. And in this shamanic festival, synchronic shamanic drumming ceremonies will be held from these 12 13 different countries at the same time. So you are all welcome to participate, and contact information down here. And thank you very much. And if you are interested, here's some flyers. And thank you.
дараагийн манай үйл ажиллагаа бол we will одоо бөөгийн эмчилгээ ангаах ухааны талаар одоо. So now we will learn about traditional healing and shamanism from Dashnyaming Mengmarsuruk from Gildi Murgo organization. Dashnyaming Mengmarsuruk is a origin, if you will join us.
오늘 가고 되니까 선임 못될 줄이 요크를 하고 한 번도 줘다. 이때 뭔가 첫 이로써 임lik гэж байна. 뭔가 임lik гэж байна. 어쩌면 보드도 있어.
So I want to share something really interesting to you. In the old days, Mongols didn't have a hospital because they didn't really get sick. There was no prison because there was no crime. So we were curious about why there was no crime, there was no sickness. So we wanted to ask the spirits and investigate it. So we asked the spirits about 1,000 or 800 years ago, how did you diagnose sicknesses and heal it?
Монгол авах ухааны гэдэг зүйлийг онцлогоос асуугаад тэдний өвөг мэдлэгийг цаасан дээр буулгаад 4 жилийн хугацаанд хийсэн судлага юм байна.
So in the course of 4 years, we interviewed or we beseeched, we asked questions from the spirits, and we put it all together in this book in the course of 4 years about how they healed and how was Mongolian traditional medicine was practiced. I'm a surgeon. I didn't want to diminish my own education and my expertise, so I debated with the spirit sometimes. So I studied with the spirit for 3 days, going back and forth between my Western medical knowledge and their ancient medical knowledge. There's a huge anatomy book, right? Medical anatomy book. In that book, obviously, we have the DNA information about chromosome, cells, and so much knowledge already documented in medical books. So what the Spirit did is that when going through the medical book, it pointed to the DNA or the gene proteins, and we use Western or Latin words, terminologies for it, but he knew the Mongolian terminology for it and started explaining the intercorrelation and how everything is put together and how everything interacts with each other. So the Spirit knew all about the gene proteins and the details, the medical details.
Надад манай хоны сургуулиуд төгссөн эмч байдаг. Japan doctor хамаасан.
There's a doctor, medical doctor who graduated from Japan.
Тэгээ би тэр хүнд хэлээд би нэг ингээд яг харахгүй юм буугаад гिचлээ. Тэгээд нөгөө хүмүүс эмч хамт суугаад онгодтой ярилцсан. Тэр хүний мэддэг дотоод шүрлийн бурчиг хаана шинжлэх ухааны мэдээллийг мэдээд даваад гарсан тайлбарыг бүтээх гэж байна.
So I sat down with that doctor who graduated from Japan and started talking to the Spirit. And the Spirit knew about the endocrine system.
Тэгээд бүр лавлаад байсан чинь одоогоос 800 жилийн өмнө 900 жилийн өмнө монголчууд эргэтэн шийдвэрлэн суулгадаг байсан.
From about 800 years ago, we learned that Mongolians used to perform organ transplant.
Гэхдээ зөвхөн нэг эргэтнийг нөгөө эргэтнээр орлуулах биш. Нэг хүний чэйжин биеийг нөгөө хүний бүгсэн биетэй холбоо зарчихсан.
So it wasn't only organ transplant, but body parts.
Этих мэрэгүү зүйл хэдийч тэдний яг зааж өгсөн онлын мэдлэгийг сонссноос хойш тэр боломжтой гэдэг ухаарсан.
I know it's unbelievable, but when they started explaining the theory and the details, technicalities of it, it made sense.
Заримдаа нэг зүйл зэрэглэн дотор хөөж байгаа юм шиг, үлгэр том сонсож байгаа юм шиг.
Sometimes it sounded like fairy tale for us.
Тэгээд энэ 4 жилийн хугацаанд тэр хэлсэн ярьслын бүгдийг сэрүүл бичээд би өөрөө нэг хувийн эмэгтэй хүн л дээ. Тэгээд өвчтнүүдтэйгээ тэрийг судлаад өөрсдөө туршаад дараа нь өвчтнүүдтэйгээ хэрэгжүүлэхэд маш өндөр мэдрэлтийн үр дүн гарсан.
So I own my own clinic, and I started practicing and experimenting and applying what I learned on myself and everyone else, and I saw really positive results.
Тэгээд энэ их мэдлэгийг асууд Америк руу сууж байгаа монголчуудаа хуваалцах гэж ирсэн.
I came all the way from Mongolia to share this knowledge with you.
Тэгэхээр энэ хэрвээ гарсан судар нь байгаа.
The sutra is here.
Энийг Кирилл үсэн дээр боловсон учраас уншиж чадахгүй байвал ерөнхий гол санааг нь яриад зураад хичээл бол маягаар заасан энэ CD байгаа.
So the book is written in Cyrillic language, but if you don't know Cyrillic, you can watch the DVD where everything is explained visually and verbally.
Тэгээ сонирхол нүүд тавьсан байна.
If you're interested, it's available over there by the door.
Тэгэхээр бид энэ судрыг гарах хугацаанд юу ойлгосон гэвэл хүн гэдэг бол зөвхөн махан биеэс тогтдог юм биш байна.
What we learned from this sutra is that human being is not just flesh and bones.
Энэ махан биеийг дижижидэг гол энергийн хүүсвэр, эрчмийн хүүсвэр нь сүнс гэдэг юм байдаг юм байна.
The source that nourishes or controls this material flesh body is the spirit.
Тэр сүнснээс маш хэмжээний эрчим тэр хүний насан туршид тэтгэж юм байна.
The spirit nourishes the human for the rest of its life.
Тэгэхдээ тэр хоёр ч хооронд холбож байдаг гүүр нь тэр хүрднүүд байдаг.
What connects the spirit and the body is the chakras, right?
Бид одоогоор 7 янзын хүрд байдаг гэж ойлгож байсан.
We think there are 7 chakras.
Гэтэл тэр чинь 7 янз хүрд чинь 108 бол задардаг юм байна.
Actually, it's broken down into 108 chakras.
Энэ 108 заяа журчмын 431 жижиг юм байна.
Then it's broken down to 1034.
Тэгэхээр тэр өөр хариуцсан эрхтэнтэй байдаг. Бүрдэн хариулдаг.
Every chakra is responsible for specific body function and organ.
Тэгэхээр одоо цагийн бидний өвчнийг хэмжиж байгаа шиг ходоод үдлэхэд ходоодын бариад биш. Ходоодыг тижээдэг, эрчмээр тэтгэдэг, хүрдийн засчаад ходоодны өвч хийдэг чинь.
So when somebody's stomach is sick, we're not only addressing the stomach, but we fix the chakra that is responsible for the stomach well-being. And if we fix it, it heals. What's nerve? Huh? Pancreas, yes. So if somebody's pancreas can be sick, any kind of inflammation, tumor, growth. Instead of medicating it or injecting it and putting all these chemicals into it, we go and address the pancreas chakra. It's quite easy to heal those chakras. Anyone can do it. You don't need a huge laboratory or hospital. Okay, I'll give you an example. Okay. We invite one person to come for. Huh? Yes, no problem. Okay.
We talk a lot about radiation therapy, operations and thoughts. Did any of this come from Tibet?
Any of it come from Tibet? This is all Mongol medicine. It's not mixed with other medicine from other places.
Тэгэхээр би зөвхөн нойрч жишээ авах. Гэтэл энд чинь бомбоо уучраа, түрүү уучраа, шүсний уучраа, өрнөд уучраа гэдэг 28 янзын уучраа байна шүү дээ. Отшоо шүүлээ.
So I'm going to only address pancreas, but there are other glands that you know of, like 28 of them, right? We have the thyroid and all these different glands, prostate.
Тэгэхээр энэ уучраагаар өвдөхгүй бол өвдсөн бол эдгээр хамгийн сайн арга бол хоолыг ханамж тэмцээд үүсэж ажиллаж байгаа.
The best way to prevent any sicknesses in pancreas is to chew your food very thoroughly.
Давид анараас нэг юм асууя. Анаа хоол идэхдээ халбодод амдайсан хоолыг 10 жижигтэй хүн байна.
When you're eating and start chewing your food, do you chew it at least 10 times? No. 15 times. 20. 25. That sounds like an option.
Тэгэхээр энэ бидний онцлогдоод авсан мэдээлэл бол мөн саяхны хүртэл монголчууд суурин амьдрал хоцоор байгуулахаас өмнө одоогоос 60-70 жилийн өмнө хүртэл хоолыг маш сайн ярьж байсан.
Before Mongolians became more sedentary or stopped, living the nomadic lifestyle, we used 50-60 years ago, we used to chew our food very thoroughly.
Жишээ альва амьтны төрлийн уург мал болоод амьтны махын шүү дээ. Энийг идэхдээ амд орсон махыг 60 удаа зажилсны дараа залгидаг.
So if we were consuming animal protein, we're supposed to chew it 60 times.
Оромлын гаралтай уур, жимс ногоо,
If it's animal, plant protein,
Таалах. Тэр босод зүйлийг 45 ажиллаж
45 times we used to chew.
Тэгэхээр зажилтын гол үүрэг гэхээр аманд орсон хоол ижилтийн шүд татаж ижилнэ.
And we know why we chew, right? It breaks down the food.
Хамгийн гол нь хүний аманд хөндлөд байдаг шүслийн бочханаас 45 өөр харилцан адилгүй шин чанартай бусад шүс гардаг.
So when we're chewing our food, 45 different types of salivas are produced by the saliva gland.
Тэр шүсүүдийг хоолтой холж дэгдээсэн цагт тэр хоолн дотор байгаа эрчим, хоор, бусад зүйл оргуу болтоо задарч зөвхөн хүсний зүйл болж байна.
So once our food is mixed with those acids or from the saliva, the toxins are broken down and the nutrition is prepared to be absorbed by our body.
Тэгэхээр хоолыг ингэж ажиллаж идсэн хүн хоолоо өвддөггүй.
So when somebody consumes their food like that, they don't have a sore throat. They don't get thyroid problems, stomach problems, liver and spleen problems, pancreas, or like digestive, system problems.
Тийм учраас одоо бас 800 жилийн өмнө их Монгол улс үед нэг их засаг хуулийн дээр нэг заалт орсон.
So about 800 years ago, there was a commandment or a rule in the Ihtasak. So if somebody chokes on their food, they'll be beheaded. So I asked, when the person choked, they survived it, right? Why do you behead the person? The reason why there was no sick or hospital was when a person chews their food properly, never gets sick. 45 to 60 times. So if somebody chews their food properly, they won't get sick. But if they don't and they start getting sick and they get beheaded, it's a really good example for others to follow, to make sure they chew their food properly and they get healthy. That was like government enforced law. So it was just a reminder for everyone to chew their food properly so they don't choke. So that was just a small sacrifice for others, a small sacrifice to pay so that the rest of the population is healthy. So that was just one example of the many medical practices or practical advices that we've forgotten, but we were able to restore them through this book. We built our gear to the south. So when we're sleeping in Mongol gear, our head is face towards the north and our feet are faced toward the south. We asked if they do it to protect from the wind.
North is where the northern star is, right?
Тэгэхээр хойд туйлаас өмнө туйл руу дэлхийн цахилгаан орон зам урсгал урсдаг юм байна. Шулуун наваа.
So the planet's electric wave runs from the north to the south.
Тэгэхээр хүн багадаа 8 цаг өгдөг шүү.
A human needs to rest 8 hours, sleep for 8 hours minimum.
Хүний бөөр цахилгаан орон зам хэмээр итвчиж цусны давсыг шээс болоод ялгаж авдаг.
A kidney is nourished by the electricity and extracts the salt from human blood circulatory system.
Тэгэхээр хоошоо хараад унтсан хүний бөөр өвддөг.
So if somebody is sleeping facing the north, they don't get kidney diseases or
Ягаад
ailments.
гэвэл бөөрнөөс цуснаас давсыг ялгаж байгаа бөөрний тэр хамгийн нарийн жижиг хэсэг түүлгэн зэрэг цахилгаан орон зам хэмээн эргэлтэнд идэвхтэй байхаараа зэрэг шээсээ маш сайн ялгаад эрүүл цусыг судас руу хугацаа оруулж.
So the kidney function is its maximum because it's aligned with the planet's electrical wave that's coming from the north to south. So the kidney functions really well, that it extracts all the toxins and the salt from the body and cleans the blood really well.
Тэгээ учраас Монгол гэрийн бүүд урагшаа харсан байна.
That's why Mongol gate or the door is faced towards the south.
Одоо үүний мэдсээс хойш та нар бөөрний өвчтөн юм байна. Гэхдээ орныхоо толгой дандаа хойд зүрх хараад.
So now that you know, if somebody has any kidney problems, you need to make sure that the head of your bed is towards the north.
Бидний маш олон бид мартсан мэдээлэлүүд бүгд энэ дээр байна. Судар дээр байна.
And that was another example from all the knowledge that we lost or forgotten throughout the years.
Олон цаг суугаад явж чилж байна.
Are you tired? Are you sore now?
За би одоо тэгвэл чилээгээ чинь арга зааж.
I'll teach you how to relieve, relax your muscles.
Хүний бие байдаг эрхтэн дотроос огт хөдөлгөө хоёр эрхтэн байдаг.
There are two organs in the human body that does not move at all.
Тэр хоёр эрхтний хөдөлгөчөөр хүний бие жилээ гарч.
If we move those two organs, the soreness and the stiffness will go away.
Тэр хоёр эрхтэн бол хүний хоёр тал.
Those are blades? No, shoulder blades, yes, shoulder blades. Those are the two shoulder blades.
Тэгэхээр одоо энэ сүшиг хоёр талаа ингэж хөдөлгөч.
You move your shoulder blades.
хөдөлгөч.
This is actually part of бэлгээ. Энэ бэлгээний
хөдөлгөч. Тавьж байна. Хөөс хамгаалж мэдэж байна.
Do you feel the difference? This is actually warm up for bэлгээ dance movements.
Одоо үүнээс үүдээд энэ Монгол бие биегээ гэж байна.
Энэс үүдээд sorry. So that's where Mongol bэлгээ dance came from.
Тэгэхээр тэр бие биегээ гэдэг нь хүний бие үндсэн 7 хөл 108 заяагч хөл бусад хөлнүүдийг хэвийн байдалд орж хөдөлгөх хөдөлгөөний дасгал эрүүлэх дасгал байхгүй.
So Mongol dance bibelge is actually a Mongol exercise to activate all those 7 and 108 and all the corresponding chakras. That's why we dance bibelge.
Тэгэхээр одоо бодохгүй ингээд хэдэн минутын дараа бие биегийн үгч гараад ирэх. Тэгэхээр бүгдээрээ хамт босоод биегээ дараад. Биегийн үгчдээ аргатай ноцтой биш шүү дээ. Хоёр тал төлж болчихсон шүү дээ.
So soon enough we'll have our dancers in performance here, and then we'll dance later on as well. So you got to make sure to move with them. It's not a big deal at all. It's just a movement of shoulders and self-expression. It doesn't have to be theatrical.
За тавтаглалаа ингээд дараагийн монголчуудын уулзалт Чингис хааны маань их тахлын жилтний болон их тахлын өдрүүдэд бид бас бие биендээ хэрэгтэй амьдрал хэрэгтэй хэрэглээний юм аргуудыг зааж өгч байвал өөрөөгөө өндөр байх болов гэж бодож байна.
So thank you so much. I'm glad that I came here, and going forward we hope that we'll gather together and we learn from each other the best practices in improving our lives and each other.
Harikasınız.
Thank you for your attention.
Now we will start with our cultural segment. We will have our DC Mongolian Kids folk dance group, choreographed by Dilma. choreographed by Dilma. She's actually in the middle of it. You can really tell what she is. За, CCM монголчуудын одоо бүгдийн багтаа концертаа баярлалаа. Одоо ингээ хувцас сольж авах хоорондоор нь би танарт яг уу өнхөө мэдээлэл хүргэе. Манай бэлгэний төгсчин бол мэдээж Монгол үндэстэн тийм Монгол хурлын хүннийг үеэс гаралтай байгаа. Тэгээд манай бүр хувилаа хаан хүртэл 312 гишүүнтэй тийм том оркестртэй байсан. Хөгжимчид, үйлчилэгчид, дуулчид тэгээд so our Mongol dance goes back to the origin of Mongols, even the Huns And throughout the history of Mongol history, we've always danced, we've always enjoyed music and art. Even Kublai Khan had 312-member orchestra with all kinds of instruments and dancers. So we're glad, I'm very proud that we're continuing this tradition and we're preserving this rich culture even today in the 21st century. 그 다른 일들 좀 бидний ингээ бүр дээр үедтэй дээр үеж хийсэн энэ бүжигдэг байсан энэ ахуйнхаа бибигээ болон наадын уламжлаа бүжгээ бас одоо үргэлжлэн өргөжлүүлэн бүжигсэн хэрэг байгаадаа маш их бахархалтай. Тэгэхээр бид бүгдээрээ сурах хэрэгтэй. Би биегээ болон монгол бүжиг бол зөвхөн ингээ тайзан дээр хүмүүс бүжиглж байхын хат биш, өөрсдөө өдөр тутам баг ингээ засал болгоод бас хоорондоо ингээ одоо найр наадам хурам найртай бүгдээрээ зөвлөлттэй авч ингээ бүгдээрээ гой бүжиглж явах хэрэгтэй байгаа. So I'm saying that with Mongols, whenever we got together, we always danced and we always spent so much time together happily. So when it comes to Mongol dance, we shouldn't only just sit down and observe other people to perform for us, but we should do it ourselves. Whenever we're together, we should be dancing Mongol Bikge. It's so rich. Okay, so now our next dance is called Takam Girls. And this dance is choreographed by the Gurma again, DC Mongolian group. Takam Ochtut гэдэг бүжиг хүлээвч зорих нь.
Like
энэ бүжиг маань Жорон Жороо гэж бүжиг байгаа. Баярбаатарын дэгэсэн дахиад DC Монгол бүжгийн групп байна. Our next dance is called Joron Joro, choreographed by Баярбаатар. Pay attention to the movement. Our next performance is by Ikhbot Ahmad, and he will sing a song, Narni Arum. Narni Arum Dok Ikhbot Ahmad.
За сайн байцгаана уу та бүхэндээ Чингис хааны нэлсэн түүхтийн сайхан өдрийн гал халуун мэндийг өөдөд нөргөнд өвшүүлж байна. Тэгээд бүхэл одоо хамаг Монголын бүхэл ах дүүс монголчууд та бүхэндээ ажлын өндөр амжилт мөн сайн сайхан бүхнийг өөдөд нөргөнд өвшүүлж байна. Тэгээд та бүхэнд зориулах тэгэн сайхан дуулах нарны орон хэмээх сайхан дуу бүгдээ хамтарч дуулъя.
Our next performer is Damara Shapanova from Kalmykia, and her first performance is Uttun Dala Jangar. Thank you so much. That was counted performance. Alın yaptıydı ve pasif button. Our next performance would be by Tamil Harkan. It will be a modern folk performance. The first song is called 33 River Prairie. 중국어로 어디 막다 Tamil Harkanları koruyun. Тамир Шикагоогоос ирж биднэрт юм тоглож байгаа. Тамир is from Chicago. 멋있다, 멋있다. 멋있다. Монгол баруун Монголын бэлгээр үзэж үзлээ. Ямар ч насны хүн үзэж байна. With Mongolian бэлгээр there is no age limit, anyone can dance. Our next performance will be by Sultan Hirei. Her first song will be Awi Choyermin, Mother and Father by Shadow. our next song is Mother's Lullaby. Our next performance will be by Paul Bayuyur, Tading Hera. Our next dance will be Tading Hera. Sorry, I'm mixing up English and Mongol in one sentence. He teaches Mongol dance in New York City. She came from Mongolia not long ago, and she is the musician from Akhta band. Have you heard about Akhta band? Akhta ethnic band? They teach Turkic dance, right? So they have the Akhta and stuff. So she is the artist from Akhta band, and she's going to perform for us Yatok. Our next performance is very special. Her name is Ayun Surugi Kamok-san. She came from Mongolia not long ago, and she is the musician from Akhta band. Have you heard about Akhta band? Akhta ethnic band? They teach Turkic dance, right? So they have the Akhta and stuff. So she is the artist from Akhta band, and she's going to perform for us Yatok. And Hiling Harin Hatra her first song is Hiling Harin Hatra by Naram Batar, and she's from Akhta Shum. Ayun Surugi. Ikaw magtali Ayun Surugi. Benado. She'll teach us Turkic dance later on after dinner.
it's a shunt instrument.
Chinggis Монгол урагтай жишээлтэй гэхээр сэтгэл болно. Whenever we need artists in New York City events, we always call Ashinstuk. If you want to be like them, let me know. Энэ хүмүүсийг нэг гоё Монголоос сурталч таад Нью-Йорк хотод Монголоос сурчмаар надад хэлээрэй авьяас хүмүүстээ. We're looking for talent. Our next song is Yachol. Everyone knows Yachol, right? Бүгдээрээ яах вэ? Тийм ээ.